Good morning, everyone. Hello again. Another day of Saturday special classes with Cuffs. My name is Professor Hollis, and we are talking about business English, English for professionals. Now, last week we talked about starting conversations, having small talk. This week we're going to look at phone calls, about specifically business phone calls. So making calls in English for business or professional reasons. We're going to look at a lot of different phrases that are often used in these types of situations. So let's just get started right away. I want to look at a quote about telephones, and I want you to tell me in the chat, what do you think this quote means? So let's have a quick look at this quote. Doug Larson says, utility is when you have one telephone. Luxury is when you have two. Opulence, which is like better than luxury, higher than luxury, is when you have three telephones. And paradise is when you have none. What do you think this quote means? And do you believe it's true? Utility is when you have one telephone. Luxury is when you have two. Opulence is when you have three. And paradise is when you have none. What do you think this means? And do you think it is true? In says, phone is a burden. Yes, that's basically what he's saying. That, I think that this quote actually comes from the past when people did not have cell phones. They didn't have their smartphones. They had just house phones, with cables, with the little coiled wires. I'm old enough to remember that at my grandparents' house, the phone we would use wasn't the phone where you push the numbers. It was the one where you if you've ever used those before, the rotary phones. I remember those. I used to use those. So I think it's talking about when you have those kinds of phones, because in your house, most people had one phone, maybe in their living room. If you were rich, maybe you had a phone in your bedroom and in your living room. If you were crazy rich, you had phones all around the house. But paradise is having no phones at all. And I can agree sometimes. If I go to the shopping or go for a run and I forget my phone, it's It's lovely. You just have peace and quiet temporarily. But unfortunately, in the world we live in now, especially for work, you can't escape telephones. You can't escape them. So we have to have them everywhere, and you have to keep them on you, and you have to know how to use them correctly. Let's see, Jenny in the chat is saying, having high-tech gadgets is very useful in some way, but having none can be very good, because you will not be bothered. Yeah, exactly. If you go on vacation, maybe it's nice to leave the telephone in the hotel room if you don't need it. Or at least not answer any business phone calls. Okay, let's jump into the next part. I want to talk about you and your routine or your habits using the phone. So this is just our first little intro activity, just some questions you can answer in the chat. So I want you to try to answer these questions. For example, the first question, how often do you speak on the phone in English? Do you ever speak on the phone in English? Maybe never? Do you just, I don't know, do you speak on it for business, or do you speak on it maybe for Zoom English? If you've signed up with the English department at Cuffs, maybe you can do Zoom English with me or the other professors. Or you can answer the other questions. The second question is, what was a time that you spoke on the phone in English? Can you remember a time that you spoke on the phone in English? Why? Why were you speaking on the phone in English? How did it feel? Was it scary? Was it successful? Or number 3, what are your biggest problems or fears about speaking on the phone? So answer one or all of these questions in the chat, and we'll talk about them for a second. In says, never speak on the phone in English. Well, I guess that means you can't answer number 2. But you can answer number 3. What's your biggest problem or fear about speaking on the phone in English? Or just speaking on the phone. I personally, I don't like speaking on the phone at all. Except to my wife. I don't want to talk on the phone to people. I just don't like it. I like text. Text is great. I don't want to speak on the phone. I don't like doing it. Even in English, I just don't like doing it. And I think a lot of people, maybe in our generation or younger, feel that way. They don't want to talk on the phone. They just want to do texting. It's just so much less pressure. Okay, let's see. In says, in previous job, I used to speak in the workplace. Okay, so speaking English, that's good. Hyunju Kim says, phone interviews. You had to do phone interviews in English. That's intimidating. That's a lot of pressure. Une Bay says, I often speak English on the phone with my kid, but I fear that my grammar is not correct most of the time. That's okay. I think especially with your family, if your grammar is not correct, it's understandable. Let's see. Jenny says, I spoke in English on the phone, and it was a kind of job interview testing my English. Again, wow, that's a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure for an interview speaking in English on the phone. That's scary. That's stressful. Lily Blossom says, I spoke on the phone in English yesterday with you. It was fun. Yes, we did. Yeah, that was for Zoom English. Tongdown 76, biggest problems. Well, it's way easier to speak face to face. Yes, it is. I agree, face to face. That's what makes the Zoom English better. I think that Lily Blossom will agree that when you can see faces, talking on the phone is not as scary. It's just easier if you can see the other person's face, because so much communication is conveyed through the face, through like expressions. Jenny says, I was scared because I don't know if they can understand my accent. Yeah, it's different for different people, because for people like the professors at Cuffs, for example, me, I've been in Korea long enough that I have no problem with the Korean accent. I just don't have a problem. I can understand without any problems. But people who have never traveled to other countries or never really had a lot of conversations with second language English speakers, they might not understand accents as well. Their ears haven't practiced it. Let's see. In says, for the third question, it was a misunderstanding. It could lead, let me show you these. So the third question is, what are the biggest problems or fears about speaking on the phone? In says, misunderstanding. It could lead to unnecessary work. Yeah, if you don't understand someone, it can become frustrating for both people trying to talk. Jenny also says, scared to make grammar mistakes and saying any rude sentences. I think that for rude sentences, people will understand you if you are trying to be nice. It's pretty obvious that you're trying to be nice. Even if you say something accidentally rude, they're going to understand it was a miscommunication. It was just a mistake. For example, I may have told this story before. My first year in Korea, it's not a telephone call, it's similar. My first year in Korea, didn't know much Korean, was learning the very, very, very basics of Korean. I was on a crowded subway, I had a seat, I was sitting down comfortably. A very old Harmony got on the subway. She was using a cane, she couldn't walk very fast. I wanted to be polite, give her my seat. So I stood up, and proudly, in my new Korean, I said, as politely as possible, 앉아. Which, as you know, is not polite. But she understood. She laughed and she took the seat. I think people understand that you're trying to be nice, even if you don't say the right words. Jenny also says, and I think phone conversation is very hard to understand clearly. Yes, it can be, definitely. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. Let's look at some rules to keep in mind when we're talking about business English. So here's some tips for business phone calls. 1, if you do not have it, make sure to get the caller's contact information first. This will help you contact the person in the future, but will also help you remember their name during the conversation. So, I mean, this is more for when you're talking at a business and you don't have their phone number. Not for cell phones, we can see their number and you can save it pretty easily. And if it's for business, you might need to save the number, and you definitely need to save the name. That's the thing. You can see the phone number on your cell phone. You can see the phone number if they call you, but it doesn't show their name. So you need to enter their name so that you remember it the next time they call. I have really bad memory, so it really helps for me to immediately, if I talk to someone that I think I might talk to again, I save their number and put their name and maybe even a note to myself about how I know them, just so that the next time they call, on my screen it shows their name and how I know them. That just helps me remember who this person is and what I talked to them last. So it's very helpful for me, I have found, because I have a very bad memory. Let's see, next tip. Always repeat information given to you. So when you are giving or when you're talking to somebody, especially a customer, or even talking to your boss. We've been talking in the chat about things that are scary, things that are like you're worried that people will misunderstand you or you will misunderstand them. The best thing to do is to repeat the information. So like if someone says, okay, I need you to, if your boss calls you and says, I need you to prepare a presentation for Tuesday for the sales team. And you want to make sure that you heard correctly. You said, okay, so Tuesday, I need to have a presentation ready Tuesday for the sales team. Just repeat it back so that if the boss hears it, he goes, okay, yeah. But if there's a mistake, if you misunderstood, they don't say, no, that's not what I said. So you can just double check that you heard correctly. Phone numbers too. Phone numbers or spelling people's names are very important because you want to make sure that you heard the number right. You want to make sure that you heard the person's name, the spelling correctly. Just repeat it back, just like an echo, just to make sure you have it correctly. That's my next tip. Next one is state what you plan to do. So again, this is good if you're talking to customers. If a customer calls you and asks you maybe about a product or a service, and that's maybe not your job, maybe your job is not what they're asking to do, you can just tell them what you plan to do next so they know what's going to happen. My example sentence here is, I will pass this information onto the shipping department and you should receive your items soon. So just whoever you're talking to, after you've repeated the information, just tell them what you're going to do next so they understand what your plan is and that you are going to do something to help them. So previously I said, if your boss calls you and says, I want you to prepare a presentation for Tuesday for the sales department, you repeat the information. Okay, so I need to prepare a presentation for the sales department on Tuesday. Today's Friday. What I'm going to do is on the weekend, I'm going to make a quick PowerPoint, and can you check it on Monday and see if there's anything you want to change? Just give them your initial plans. So then your boss knows that, okay, so he's going to have, a PowerPoint draft ready on Monday. We can look at that together and have it ready by Tuesday. Just tell them your plans. Next is in the call with a polite phrase. It can be awkward ending a phone call with people you don't know. You don't know, am I going to hang up first? Are they going to hang up first? Just have a phrase that you always say. For example, thanks again for calling. Have a great day. Hang up. So you don't have to say goodbye or bye-bye. That's kind of childish. Have a great day is a good one. Just thanks again for calling. Have a great day. Okay, next one. Let's see, I pushed the wrong button there. Next tip. During conference calls. So for business, you're sometimes going to have to do conference calls in which there are many people on the phone, not just 2 people. There might be 5 people, 6 people, 12 people. It could be a lot of people. So during conference calls, remember these 3 rules. Keep it short, stay on topic, and wait your turn. So it's difficult to know when you should speak during a conference call sometimes, but don't talk over people. Don't try to jump into the conversation when it's not your turn or when other people are talking. Stay on topic. Don't talk about the weather or talk about what you did last weekend, and keep it short, because the longer you talk, the less people are going to pay attention. People get bored when you talk for a long time. So try to keep it very short, stay on topic, and wait your turn. Okay, now let's practice a little bit. Let's practice asking each other for our contact information in the chat, in the YouTube chat. Now, of course, you don't have to give your real information. You don't have to give your real birthday or your real zip code. Please don't give me your real credit card number, please. But imagine that you are working at a company and a customer has called you. First, you need to get the following contact details from the customer. How are you going to ask for these things politely? How are you going to ask? Some of these are easy, like, what's your name? Or what's your full name? Can you spell that for me? These are easy. Like, I'll write these in the chat. For name. You could say, what's your name? More politely, you could say, can I get your name? If you need their full name, what is your full name? Because in English we have to say full name sometimes, because if people ask for my name, just casually, I'll say Josh. If it's in a business situation, I might say Josh Hollis. But Josh isn't my full name, and I have a middle name. So if they ask for my full name, I have to say Joshua Patrick Hollis. We have to say the whole thing. But I don't normally say that. You could also ask them to spell it. Can you spell that for me? So these are some polite questions you can ask on the phone when asking for someone's name. Now, what questions might you ask when asking for someone's birthday, when asking for their zip code, or when asking how the customer is going to pay. Can you please just write a few questions in the chat? How would you ask for these things? What would you say? What are the questions you might ask if you're on the phone with the customer? Chungdown76 says, can I also get your date of birth? That's great. That's a great way to say it. Yeah. Date of birth is more professional than birthday. Excellent. Hyunju Kim says, could you please tell me your zip code? Yes, zip code. And yeah, zip code is used mostly in America. A zip code is 5 numbers, similar to Korea. Jenny says, sir or ma'am. Ma'am is spelled very strangely, ma'am. Sir or ma'am, to process this work, I need to know your personal information. Do you mind if I ask about those? This is a very good introduction, Jenny. Just let me fix your grammar just a tiny bit. To process this order, I need to know maybe some personal information. Do you mind if I ask a few questions? That's maybe just a tiny bit better than what you said, but already very good. Chungdown76, and can I have your zip code? Good, good. In says, I need some personal information to treat your case. Could you tell me your full name, birthday, and zip code, and form of payment? Good. Maybe not to treat your case. Maybe instead of to treat your case, we can say to complete your order. And Chungdown76, finally, how would you pay for this? Would you like to pay with credit card or by cash? Yeah, how would you like to pay for this? Would you like to pay with a credit card or by cash? How would you pay with cash on the phone? But yeah, I think credit card probably is going to be necessary. Interestingly, okay, I'll say this. Yeah, maybe in Korea you can pay like with a credit card, or you can just send money from your bank account very quickly. America, we don't really do that for business. For just personal, just person to person, we can send like Cash App or something, I think. I haven't lived in America in a long time. But we don't normally pay a company with our bank account. That's very rare. We just do the credit card. So it's almost always a credit card in the US, or the UK for that matter. Let's see, some more questions. First, what is your full name, and can you spell that, please? Not them. Spell that, please. When is your date of birth? Next is, what is your zip code? The last one is, would you like to pay in cash or credit card? Good. Yeah. We wouldn't say, can you spell them? I know it's 3 names, like mine is 3 names, but it's one full name. So we just say spell that, usually, because it's one name. Even though it's 3 names, but it's in one person. So, yeah, that one name. Okay, good. That was a good little practice. Good. You guys are really participating well. Thank you. Let's move on to some phrases we can use, and we can even practice these in the chat. So, a few phrases. The first is, I'm calling in regards to, or in regard to. Use this phrase when you want to explain the reason that you are calling. This is, again, these are professional, formal phrases. This is not what you would say when you're talking to a friend or family member. This is for business purposes. So I'm calling in regards to the meeting tomorrow. I'm calling in regards to my order that I placed yesterday. I'm calling in regards to the presentation we're having next week. You're talking about why you're calling. What are you calling in regards to? So, what is a conversation you've had recently, maybe for business, in Korean is fine. What's a conversation you've had recently, and what was it in regards to? What was a recent conversation you had in regards to something? For example, I'll give you an example. Recently, I had a conversation in regards to recording schedule, because I work at Cuffs, and we film and record our lectures. Also, if you're a student with us, and you know midterm exams will come up, it's only the second week, but midterm exams will come up in a month or so. And some exams, not all, have audio. You have to listen to someone talking in English. Your professors, we have to record that. So we're already planning when we're going to record the conversations and things for the exams that need audio. So recently I had a conversation with my colleagues, people I work with, in regards to midterm recording schedule. That is something I had a recent conversation about. What is something you had a recent conversation regarding for business related things, or school? Could be about school. So I'll type mine in the chat very quickly. That would be mine. I'm calling in regards to the midterm recording schedule. What is something you have recently called regarding? To anybody. Okay, Chung Down 76 says, I am calling in regards to checking. I'm calling in regards to, we don't need to say to check, just I'm calling in regards to my appointment. I'm calling in regards to my appointment with Dr. Kim on next Tuesday for a regular dental checkup. So you might say, because we don't need to say a verb there. You could say, I am calling in regards to my appointment with Dr. Kim on next Tuesday for a regular dental checkup. Maybe you just want to say, I just want to confirm the appointment time. So maybe you're just wanting to confirm when the appointment is, or that you have an appointment. Let's see. Jenny says, I'm calling in regards to double checking your recent requests. Do you have time for a second? Again, we don't need to do a verb here. We can do, here's how I would say this a little bit more naturally. I'm calling in regards to your recent requests. Just, do you have a second? I would like to double check the information you provided. Maybe that would be a little bit more professional. In says, I'm calling in regards to adjusting the job interview schedule. Again, you can say that. I mean, you can do this verb after in regards to doing something. Gerund is correct. You're right. Adjusting. ing. That is correct. So if you want to use a verb after in regards to, you need the gerund. This is the old, I know that, oh, okay. Quick grammar lesson. Quick grammar lesson. The difference between a gerund, which is a word that ends in ing, like running, and the infinitive, which is to, like to run. Running, to run. But after verbs, some verbs you must write an infinitive, some verbs you must write a gerund, and some verbs you can choose. For example, like love and hate are ones that it doesn't matter. You can say I love to run, I love running, same thing. But there is one rule. There's one interesting rule. If you're using a phrasal verb, so a phrasal verb is like a verb that has more than one word. For example, in regards to would be kind of not a verb, but it's a phrase. It's a fixed phrase. So in regards to. To is part of that phrase, that phrasal verb, in regards to. Whenever you have a phrasal verb and at the end of it there's a preposition like in, on, at, to, for, from, after that you must use a gerund every time. So because in regards to ends in a preposition, you must use a gerund after that. That's just quick grammar lesson. Okay, good. Let's move on to the next phrase. I'm calling to ask about, or I'm calling to discuss, or I'm calling to clarify. Clarify means double check, or to just make sure I understand correctly. You can use this phrase when you want to ask a question or talk about a topic. Yes, so I'm calling to clarify the time for tomorrow's meeting. Like I'm calling to double check. You can say double check. Double check is okay. But clarify is more formal. It makes you sound smarter because clarify is such a nice word. So I'm calling to clarify the time for tomorrow's meeting. What time is, I forgot basically, what time is tomorrow's meeting? I'm calling to ask about or to discuss or to clarify something. Yeah, I often have to clarify, if you have a busy schedule, you can forget things. I sometimes forget my Zoom English schedule because I have Zoom English like 3 times a week. I have to call and double check that I have the right time or the right student names, things like that. What do you have to clarify or double check sometimes in your life? What do you forget about? What is something recently maybe you forgot about or something you often forget about? What do you have to double check or clarify in your life? Right in the chat. Oh wait, switch over back to this. You can see the words. What is something you often forget about or you need to double check in your life? Maybe even if it's not professional life. What is something you often forget? Jenny says, I'm calling to discuss tomorrow's meeting, such as the venue, time, and the contents of the meeting. Such as a venue, time, and the contents of the meeting. Good. Like venue is where the meeting will happen. Time of the meeting and contents. What are you going to talk about? Okay, wait. Before we continue, I have a quick question. To the people watching right now, to the people in the chat room, some of you might be full-time students, and that's cool. I'm okay with that. But does anybody have a job? Does anybody have a job where they're actually doing work from home? Is anyone, because of coronavirus, because of COVID, are you working from home right now? Or recently, or this year? Because I know I am. I work from home a lot. Of course, with my job, it's easier to work from home because everything's online. But what about you? Are you working from home? Do you have to have these kind of like meetings on the phone or Zoom meetings quite often? or is this a rare thing for you? Because maybe I'm taking it for granted. For me, I'm always having to communicate with the office, in chat or phone calls or Zoom. We're doing that a lot. Jenny says, I worked from home last year, but I guess you're back in the office now. Unhabe says, I am calling to clarify my doctor's appointment. I remember it's sometime this week. Yeah, good. It's sometime this week, not sometimes. Sometime. Jenny, yes, I had a Zoom meeting a lot last year. Yeah, Zoom became very popular. Yeah, Zoom has become the big thing, and I'm using Zoom all the time. And in fact, this Saturday class used to be at campus. Before coronavirus, we did this kind of Saturday class, in a classroom, at Cuffs, in person to person. That's what we did the first year or year and a half that I worked there. And now, because of coronavirus, we had to go to YouTube. Let's see. In says, I used to work at home, Jete Kunmu, and used to discuss by Google Meet. Oh, see, I've never used Google Meet. Interesting. Okay, I've never used that. Jenny says, really? In-person class? That's awesome. Yeah, it used to be, it was different because I could actually hear you. We could actually talk. But now we have to do chat. So, yeah, maybe one day we'll go back to offline classes. That would be nice. It's nicer because, we would talk and we would have class and maybe even lunch after sometimes. And it was just, or maybe like different events happening during the day at Cuffs. It was COVID changed everything, didn't it? Okay, let's move on to the next phrase. There's a mistake in this. Sorry. It's how may I be of assistance? Sorry, I have a little typo there. How may I be of assistance? Use this phrase when you want to help someone, when someone calls. You could even answer the phone like this. You could say, hello, my name is Joshua. Thank you for calling Hanguk University of Foreign Languages. How may I be of assistance? It's like, how can I help you? This is a very nice way, how may I be of assistance, is a very nice way to say, what do you want? Why are you calling me? What do you want? This is a very nice way to say that. So instead of being rude and say, okay, hey, what do you want? It's, how may I be of assistance? How can I help you today? Yeah, so maybe if you call a company an English company in the US or the UK or Australia, they might say, how may I be of assistance? How can I help you? What do you want? Why are you calling? It's just a very nice way to say that. How may I be of assistance? I'm not going to ask you to practice this because it's just one sentence, but just try to remember this. It's a very useful, common phrase used to answer the phone at a company. If you're working at a company and someone calls you, how may I be of assistance? Next is, could I ask who is calling, please? Use this phrase when you want to ask to know the caller's name in the beginning of the conversation. So again, maybe you're talking to a customer or someone who has called your company, and you can say, hello, my name is Josh. How can I be of assistance today? And they will say, oh, well, I want to, cancel my order. Okay, before I can assist you today, could I ask who is calling, please? Could I ask for your name? It's just another way to ask for the person's name. Could I ask who is calling? You might also use this for spam calls because, in Korea, we get lots of spam calls. And they'll start talking to you. Just say, can I ask who is calling? Actually, a very useful thing for me for spam calls is if I'm getting a call from a spam number quite often, because usually, most people, we ignore it. We just don't answer it. But if it's annoying me because I'm getting it all the time, I will answer, and in very annoyed English, I will act like I don't understand any Korean. I'll say, hello? Hey, what? What do you... Hello? They will hang up because they don't want to speak English, and they will never call me again. Like they just delete my phone number, which is great. So that's what I will do when I don't want to talk to somebody. Okay, so could I ask who is calling, please? Next phrase. Let's look at the next phrase. Could you spell that for me? Yeah, this is a useful thing for names that are difficult to spell. Like I have a difficult one on the PowerPoint here. Your name is Fitzgerald. Is that correct? Could you spell that for me? Fitzgerald. Not an easy one. Now the problem becomes with spelling. Now I don't know all of it. That's the problem. We have a code in English that's used for the military. The military uses, but like people whose job, if it's your job to talk on the telephone to customers, many of those people have memorized it. I have not memorized it. But it's the naval code, like the alpha, beta, or no, there's different words. Every letter has a word to it. And I don't know them. Because it can be difficult talking on the phone. Did you say F or did you say P? Did you say, difference V? Did you say V or B? Some letters sound the same. So we'll say like, did you say V as in venue or did you say P as in place? We say as in So that's a common, I'll write that really fast. Did you say letter as in word? For example, did you say X as in X-ray? So it's like, to make sure that you heard the correct letter, to make sure that you heard them correctly, you say a word that starts with that letter, because it can be confusing to hear it. Jenny says, I once asked so many times the difference between L and R. Yeah, that can be a difficult one because now I find this goes both ways. This goes for Korean speakers to English and English speakers to Korean. There are some sounds in the English language that don't really exist in the Korean language and vice versa, meaning there are some sounds that exist in the Korean language that don't exist in the English language. Like for me, learning like sangsiut, or like with the double consonant sounds, very difficult. Also, I know that L and R can be difficult for Korean speakers, but Lil is difficult for English speakers to get it right. Because I once had a student, I'm going to write this name, in a long time ago. I had a student in my class when I taught at a different university, and her name was Lila. Her name is Lila. And I would always say Lila, Lila. And the other students would make fun of her, like gorilla, Lila. Because that second Lil sound doesn't really exist in English. We don't, because this is my experience. I could be wrong. You're the Korean speakers. But like the first Lil sound and the second Lil sound in this name are a little bit different for the way I would pronounce it. So I had to learn that there are kind of two different ways to say it that sound almost the same to my ear, but sound different to Korean ears. And same for English. There's different, yeah. You got to double check. You have to double check which letter. It's confusing for both sides. So I understand the struggle. I do understand. Okay, let's move on to the next tip. The next phrase, the next phrase. I'm sorry I didn't catch your name. I'm sorry I didn't catch your name. So this is a polite way to say either, one, I forgot your name. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Or B, excuse me, you never said your name. You didn't tell me your name. It's a polite way to say either of those. Either I forgot your name or you didn't tell me your name. So just, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. It's just saying, just use this phrase when you want to ask a person's name in the middle of the conversation. My example is, yes, I can send that product to you tomorrow, but I will need your address. Oh, and I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. Now, I didn't catch your name is typically a little bit less formal. It's more informal. But if you're kind of already talking to someone in the middle of a conversation and it's a little bit more relaxed, you could use this because you're a little bit slightly more informal. So I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. You can use this for other phrases too. You can say, I didn't catch your phone number. I didn't catch your address. I didn't catch that. What did you say? I didn't catch that. Even if you didn't hear what the other person said. I didn't catch that means I just didn't hear what you said. Or maybe you never said it, and I'm just politely asking you to tell me. So I didn't catch that. Okay, next one. Shall we say this date or this time or this place? For example, shall we say Tuesday? Shall we say at the library? Shall we say at 10 o'clock? You can use this phrase when you want to suggest a time or place for a meeting or for anything, really. But using shall we say is a very formal way to make a suggestion. You would not say this to your friends or family usually. Unless you're trying to act like humorously formal, I guess. But normally this is a very formal way to make a suggestion, usually for the date or time or place of something. So maybe if I'm discussing the schedule for, I mentioned earlier, the midterm recordings, I would say, shall we say next Wednesday at 10 o'clock? That's just my suggestion. I'm not saying we have to do that. I'm just basically asking people, is this okay? What do you think of this idea? Shall we say? Very good phrase to remember for formally making a suggestion for a future plan. Shall we say? Okay, next one. Try not to go too fast. If I may be of more assistance, please let me know. So you can use this phrase when you want to ask how you can help a customer. So earlier we talked about, when you answer the phone, you can say, how can I be of assistance? But if you can't help them, if they ask you for something and you say, I'm sorry, I can't do that. That product is sold out, or our company doesn't provide that service. We just don't do that. You say, I'm sorry, but how can I be of other assistance? Basically, if I can be of more assistance, if I can help you in a different way, please let me know. Please tell me how I can help you in a different way. If I may be of more assistance, please let me know. Again, a very nice way to talk to someone on the phone and to tell them that you are willing to help them in some way. Next phrase, what would you suggest? This is the opposite of shall we say. So if I'm talking about a meeting and I want to say, we need to have a meeting about this. What day would you suggest? What time would you suggest? What place would you suggest? The other person might say, shall we say next Tuesday? So, shall we say is giving your opinion. What would you suggest is asking for the other person's opinion. My example here is, I'm not sure how to solve this issue. What would you suggest? What is your idea? Okay, good. Continuing on, because we only have like 8 minutes left. Let me see if I got that right. This is, again, a phrase when you want to confirm something the other person said. Now, some of these phrases I'm teaching you, you might not need to say, but it's good to know what they are, so if you hear somebody say it, you know what they're talking about. So let me see if I got that right. Is what you say before you repeat information. So we talked about, you should repeat back what the other person said. That was one of my tips. that people are afraid of miscommunication or not understanding the other person on the phone. So my tip is to repeat back the other person's information. Before you repeat back, it's good to say, let me see if I got this right. So a conversation might be, your boss says, I need you to come in. On Tuesday, I need you to give a presentation to the finance department on Tuesday. Okay, presentation, finance department, Tuesday. And you might say, okay, let me see if I got this right. You need me to give a presentation on Tuesday to the finance department, right? Right. So before you're repeating the information, this is the useful phrase to say. Let me see if I got that right. So my example here is, let me see if I got that right. You were saying that you ordered 10 copies of the book, but you only received 9? That's a problem. We need to send you another book. So you're just repeating what the other person said. And this is a very common phrase to say before you repeat that information. Next, what is the best way to contact you? Usually by phone or by email. So when you're talking to someone and you want to contact them again, you're just asking their preference. Do they want to be contacted by email? Do they want to be contacted by phone or even text message? Because if you ask me this question, I am never going to say contact me by phone. I don't want to be contacted by phone. I mentioned I don't like talking on the phone. I want to be contacted by email or text message, please, or Kakao Talk. I don't want to be contacted by phone. So if they ask me, I'll just say, here's my email address, contact me that way. That's the easiest way to contact me. Because honestly, I don't know about other people. If I see a phone number that I don't recognize, I probably won't answer it. I just won't answer it. I just don't want to talk. But I will, if it looks like an important phone call, I'll text them and say, I'm sorry I missed your call. How can I be of assistance? What do you want? So yeah, I don't want to be contacted by phone. And I think lots of people my age are that way, or younger. Older people want to be contacted by phone. Younger people tend to not. So my example sentence here is, I will get in touch with you when your order is ready for shipping. What is the best way to contact you? By phone or by email? Just how would you like to be contacted? Next phrase. We can use this phrase when you want to explain how long something will take. We say it should take no longer than a day, a week, a month. So we're saying that it could take up to a month. So if you're ordering something, let's say that you order a book from the United States, not from Korea, from the United States. It's going to take a long time to ship to Korea. We can say it should take no longer than 2 weeks. That means it could take 2 weeks. 2 weeks is the maximum, but it will probably take less time, not 2 weeks. It should take no longer than. It's a common phrase to say that this is the maximum amount of time, but it should happen in a shorter time. It should be less than 2 weeks, maybe 10 days or 8 days, but it shouldn't be more than 2 weeks. So again, that phrase is, it should take no longer than a day, a week, a month. This is good for talking to your boss too, because I find this is a great way to talk to your boss, because in in the business world, I'm going to write something in the chat. In business, that's in Korean. In business and in life, it is good to under promise and over deliver. So in business and in life, it is good to under-promise and over-deliver. What does that mean? It means that if your boss asks you to write a report or do some kind of job, and you think, okay, this will take me 2 days. I can finish this in 2 days, no problem. Do not tell your boss it will take 2 days, Because what if something happens? What if it takes longer? What if, if you say 2 days and you finish in 2 days, great. But if you say it will take 3 days, you are under-promising. But it only takes 2 days, you're over-delivering, you're doing better than what you said. It's more impressive. It's more impressive that way. That, oh man, they said it would take 3 days, but it only took 2 days. They must have worked really hard on it. This is kind of the thought process that happens. So, under-promise, which means don't promise as much or as fast as you could, and over-deliver means do it better than you promised. That's just a good rule of thumb to remember. Under-promise, over-deliver. And this is one phrase you can use for that, because when you're saying it should take no longer than a week, it could happen faster, and it's good if it happens faster. Okay, I think we have time to look at maybe one more phrase, and then we have to stop so the next professor can get set up. Let's see. My next phrase is, I'm sorry, is not available. Can I take a message? So is not available is just a polite, formal way to say is not here. So if you're answering the company phone, not your own cell phone, but you're answering the company phone, and the person asks for someone else, and that person is not there, you can say, I'm sorry, Professor Burns is not available. Can I take a message? So basically, this person is not here, but not available is more professional way to say not here. And again, we have run out of time. I had a few more slides, but there's no more time. Time goes so fast. 1 hour is not enough sometimes, huh? But that's life. Overpromise or underpromise and overdeliver. Don't get those backwards. Underpromise and overdeliver. It's been good. I hope that you learned a few interesting phrases for phone business. And yeah, try to remember them, use them the next time. Don't be so scared to speak in English on the phone. Just try to confirm what the other person said by repeating it back. That will make you feel more confident in what you heard and that you heard it correctly. Enjoy your weekend, and yeah, stay safe. I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for joining me, and see you next week. Bye, guys.